It's 2 a.m. over the South China Sea. A four-engine turboprop banks silently in a wide circle 7,000 feet above the water. Enemy fast attack boats are closing in on the USS Ronald Reagan carrier strike group. The carrier's F-35Cs fired their last missiles an hour ago and are back on deck. But one aircraft is still up there, orbiting, watching, hunting. Then, one by one, those boats start disappearing. What is this terrifying aircraft? Enemy soldiers call it the Angel of Death. American ground troops call it Salvation. For nearly 6 decades, this has been the most feared close air support weapon ever built. This is the AC-130J Ghost Rider. Subscribe now and let's get started. A cargo plane becomes a monster. The story does not start with a sophisticated weapons program. It starts with a problem. It is 1967, and American forces in Vietnam are watching enemy trucks loaded with troops and supplies roll down the Ho Chi Minh Trail every single night, shielded by dense jungle canopy. Fighter jets are useless here. They come in fast, drop their bombs, and vanish. The trucks keep rolling. Engineers at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base decide to try something different. They take a C-130 Hercules, a slow, stocky cargo hauler, and gut the left side of the fuselage. 4 7.62 millimeter miniguns and 4 20 millimeter Vulcan cannons go in. A night vision telescope gets fitted in the forward door. Then RAF Wing Commander Tom Pinkerton hand builds an analog fire control computer that ties the whole weapons system together. The prototype lands at Nha Trang Air Base on September 21st, 1967, codenamed Spectre. What follows stuns everyone. Over the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the AC-130 obliterates hundreds of trucks in weeks. The numbers are extraordinary. Destroying one truck using an F-105 Thunderchief costs $118,000. The AC-130 does it for $5,100. During just one dry season in 1969 and 1970, 12 gunships destroy 47,000 tons of enemy supplies. Some crews knock out 25 trucks in a single sortie. The losses are real. In 1972 alone, enemy surface-to-air missiles shoot down 4 AC-130s. But before the war ends, these gunships account for more than 10,000 enemy trucks destroyed and an untold number of American lives saved. A cargo plane has become the most lethal aircraft in the sky, and the military is only just getting started. An arsenal that keeps growing. Every new AC-130 variant that follows becomes more dangerous than the one before it. Early upgrades add 40 millimeter Bofors cannons. Then comes the 105 millimeter M102 howitzer, the biggest gun ever mounted on a fixed-wing aircraft in history. The AC-130W Stinger II and the current Ghost Rider represent the end result of all that evolution, and the firepower they carry is almost difficult to believe. The Ghost Rider's standard loadout starts with a 30 millimeter GAU-23 Bushmaster II cannon capable of precision fire at extended ranges, but the howitzer is still the centerpiece. Each shell weighs around 100 pounds and measures roughly 2 feet long. When one fires, the recoil physically shoves the 80-ton aircraft 6 feet sideways in the air. The shell still lands exactly where the crew aimed it, 7,000 feet below. The gunslinger weapon system adds AGM-176 Griffin missiles and GBU-44B Viper strike munitions. Wing pylons carry up to 8 GBU-39 small diameter bombs, or AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. 10 common launch tubes in the fuselage handle additional glide munitions. Every mission gets a custom weapons load assembled by specialized crews who spend hours securing everything before the aircraft leaves the ground. Those howitzer shells, each one 2 feet long and 100 pounds, get locked into reinforced ammunition racks, bolted to the fuselage to stop them from shifting during the violent banking maneuvers the aircraft pulls in combat. Loading everything correctly is not just important. It is the difference between a successful mission and a catastrophic one. The machine behind the myth. The Ghost Rider is built on the MC-130J Commando 2 airframe and powered by 4 Rolls-Royce AE2100D3 turboprops, each producing 4,700 shaft horsepower. Top speed reaches 416 miles per hour. Unrefueled range extends 3,000 miles. The service ceiling is listed at 39,000 feet, but in combat, the aircraft orbits far lower, typically between 7,000 and 10,000 feet where the weapons are most effective. That low altitude also means most missions run at night to reduce exposure. The sensor suite is where the Ghost Rider truly separates itself from everything else in the air. The Lockheed Martin AAQ-39 multispectral sensor system mounts under the nose and combines a mid-wave infrared forward-looking sensor, image-intensified television cameras, and a laser target designator and rangefinder into one integrated package. Objects can be identified from nearly 10 miles away. Infrared sensors detect heat signatures through total darkness and thick smoke. All-weather radar cuts through cloud cover. There is nowhere to hide from this aircraft. For self-protection, the Ghost Rider carries the Exelis ALQ-172 electronic countermeasure system, a digital radio frequency memory jammer that handles threat detection, electronic warning, jamming, and self-protection simultaneously. In a contested airspace filled with enemy radar and missiles, this system is what keeps the crew alive long enough to do their work. 8 people running one lethal machine. Operating an AC-130 requires extraordinary coordination across 8 crew members, each locked into a specific role from the moment pre-flight checks begin. Pre-flight starts with 2 pilots and 2 combat systems officers powering up the onboard computers and working through a systematic diagnostic process. Navigation systems, communication gear, weapons control, sensors, electronic countermeasures, and flight controls all get checked before a single engine starts. Ground crews refuel the aircraft and finish securing the weapons load at the same time. It is a choreographed process with no room for shortcuts or errors. In the air, the pilots focus entirely on flying. AC-130 missions demand precise low-altitude maneuvering, often in total darkness, often with enemy fire in the area. The 2 combat systems officers manage weapons targeting and firing, coordinating constantly with weapons operators and gunners in the rear of the aircraft. The howitzer cannot be fired remotely. Crew members operate it by hand, loading and firing each 100-pound shell manually, while the aircraft holds its combat bank. Aiming coordination is one of the most drilled skills in the entire program. 2 or more crew members work together on a single weapon to maximize both speed and accuracy. When troops on the ground are in contact below, there is no margin for error. Training hard, maintaining harder. AC-130 crews conduct regular live fire training over designated ranges, putting 105mm, 40mm, and 30mm rounds into ground targets to stay sharp across every system. Crews are also trained to inspect and maintain each weapon system themselves, because knowing the mechanics of every gun and launcher is what allows them to diagnose and fix problems mid-mission when there is no time to land. Maintenance teams operate on daily, weekly, and monthly inspection schedules covering the airframe, weapons systems, sensors, and avionics. Structural checks focus on the cumulative stress that repeated cannon fire puts on an airframe not originally designed to absorb it. Specialized crews handle armaments. Separate teams manage electronics. Nothing goes unrepaired. In 2020, the last 3 AC-130U spooky gunships from the 4th Special Operations Squadron were retired, with a ceremonial flyover at Hurlburt Field in Florida. Those aircraft had served for more than 25 years. The fact that they completed their final flights without incident after everything they had been through was a testament to the maintenance crews who kept them airworthy for a quarter century under the most demanding conditions imaginable. The War on Terror proves the concept. Afghanistan and Iraq showed the world what sustained gunship operations look like in practice. Night after night, AC-130s orbited over active combat zones, ready to respond the moment a ground unit called for support. Soldiers in both theaters began calling it the infantryman's best friend, and not as a compliment to a piece of hardware, as a genuine expression of relief and gratitude. The Ghost Rider can fire danger close, meaning within meters of friendly forces, with a precision that no other aircraft in the American arsenal can match at that level of sustained engagement. When a patrol is pinned down and surrounded, that capability is the difference between survival and disaster. In 2015, AC-130s destroyed more than 100 ISIS-operated oil tanker trucks in a series of strikes in Syria, directly dismantling a major source of terrorist revenue in a single operation. In 2023, an AC-130J hit Iranian-backed militia positions in Iraq following attacks on Al-Assad Air Base. Both operations demonstrated something no other aircraft could replicate: the combination of hours-long loiter time, or precision sensors, and an adaptable weapons load produced outcomes that carrier-based jets and land-based fighters simply could not have achieved with the same efficiency. 2025, the Ghost Rider gets deadlier. The AC-130J is not finished evolving. 3 major upgrades currently being integrated push its capabilities further than anything that came before. First is the Black Arrow small cruise missile. In 2025, AC-130Js completed successful launch tests of this weapon. It weighs around 200 pounds, carries various warhead types depending on mission requirements, and reaches targets up to approximately 200 miles away. A single Ghost Rider armed with Black Arrow can strike anything within a circle covering more than 125,000 square miles, an area larger than the entire state of New Mexico. Enemies no longer need to be beneath the aircraft to be in range. Second is the AN/APG 83 Scalable Agile Beam Radar. In August 2025, Special Operations Command announced plans to install this advanced AESA radar across 30 AC-130Js. It produces high-resolution synthetic aperture radar imagery for all-weather targeting, tracks moving vehicles on the ground, and resists electronic jamming from adversary systems. In the worst weather conditions, against enemies using sophisticated countermeasures, the Ghost Rider will still find and hit what it is looking for. Third is the AGM-84 Harpoon anti-ship missile. Each harpoon stretches nearly 13 feet long, weighs over 1,500 pounds, and skims just above the water surface at high speed on the way to its target, making interception extremely difficult. An AC-130J carrying harpoons can patrol vast stretches of open ocean, identify enemy surface ships, and engage from standoff range without ever entering the threat envelope of what it is hunting. Nobody would have predicted that a propeller-driven descendant of a cargo hauler would become a serious maritime strike platform. Here we are, hunting with the fleet. This is where the Ghost Rider's evolution becomes especially significant for naval warfare, and for this channel specifically. The AC-130J does not operate alone. It works directly alongside carrier strike groups to cover the gaps that even the most advanced carrier-based aircraft cannot fill. Picture a real fleet operation in the Western Pacific. The USS Gerald R. Ford or the USS Nimitz deploys its full air wing. F-35C Lightning IIs handle stealth penetration and advanced targeting. FA-18 Super Hornets deliver speed and strike power, but a Super Hornet can only remain on station for 20 to 30 minutes before it must return to the carrier to refuel. Once its weapons are gone, that aircraft is done for the mission. The Ghost Rider can orbit for hours, with aerial refueling extending that endurance almost indefinitely, maintaining constant pressure on enemy forces across the entire operation. E-2C Hawkeye early warning aircraft launched from the carrier feed the Ghost Rider real-time intelligence on threats and targets. F-35s, with their own advanced sensors, identify enemy positions and relay exact coordinates to the gunship. The AC-130 takes all of that data and converts it into precise, sustained fire that does not stop when the jets go home. Together, these platforms create a layered offensive and defensive capability that none of them could produce independently. In recent joint exercises, AC-130Js operating alongside naval forces tracked small, fast attack craft that ship-based radar systems struggled to detect. The gunship then disabled those craft with precision weapons without destroying them entirely, allowing boarding teams to capture the vessels and gather intelligence. That kind of controlled, calibrated force is something no fast jet can provide. The Ghost Rider also clears the path for the fleet itself. When carriers operate near hostile coastlines, the AC-130 can destroy coastal anti-ship missile batteries, radar installations, and command centers before the carrier air wing begins its strike operations. If a pilot ejects over enemy territory, the Ghost Rider provides armed overwatch during recovery, suppressing any enemy movement toward the downed aviator. When Navy SEALs insert from a ship to raid a coastal target, The AC-130 circles overhead, providing the kind of precise, sustained fire support that carrier jets simply cannot deliver during extended operations on the ground. The vulnerabilities, they do not hide. The Ghost Rider is not invincible. Its large radar cross-section, slow speed, and low operating altitude make it dangerous to operate in airspace defended by modern surface-to-air missile systems. Against peer adversaries with integrated air defense networks, putting an AC-130 within range is a calculated risk that mission planners cannot ignore. Air Force Special Operations Command addresses this directly. Standoff weapons like the Black Arrow extend strike range far beyond most air defense envelopes. The AESA radar enables targeting at distances where the aircraft stays out of harm's way. Advanced automation and electronic warfare upgrades continue to improve both crew efficiency and survivability. One thing will not change. Lieutenant General Michael Connolly confirmed that the 105mm howitzer remains permanently. Its ability to reduce fortified structures to rubble and its psychological impact on enemy forces are simply not replaceable by any guided munition. No missile produces the same effect on morale. No bomb hits a hardened position the same way. The gun stays. The legend keeps flying. The AC-130J Ghost Rider is the product of nearly 60 years of continuous development, starting from a modified cargo hauler firing cannons over Vietnamese jungle and arriving at a maritime strike platform, capable of hunting ships across 125,000 square miles of open ocean. It has saved American lives in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. It has dismantled enemy supply chains, cut off terrorist funding, and delivered the kind of sustained fire support that no other aircraft on Earth can replicate. Working alongside F-35Cs, Super Hornets, and the surface combatants of carrier strike groups, the Ghost Rider fills the space that speed and stealth alone cannot cover. Persistence wins battles, and nothing in the American arsenal is more persistent than this aircraft. The crews who fly, load, and maintain these gunships do some of the most demanding and dangerous work in the entire U.S. military. Their skill is what turns an aircraft into a legend when ground forces are surrounded and desperate, when a carrier strike group needs a threat neutralized and needs it done for hours rather than minutes. The Angel of Death arrives, and it does not leave until the mission is finished. If you want more content covering the aircraft, ships, and weapons keeping America's military ahead of every threat on the planet, subscribe to this channel right now. There is a lot more coming, and you do not want to miss it.